Researchers have pointed out that a structure develops whenever there's a social activity, and perhaps the defining characteristic of that structure is the emergence of a leader. Leadership is the ability to influence and guide the action of others. However, too often underserved communities lack leadership opportunities for young people. In this episode, I'll speak with Stuart Krohn, whose long career playing rugby at both the collegiate and professional levels provided leadership lessons he shares with the underserved communities in South Los Angeles. He started a rugby program at the Inner City Educational Foundation schools in 1999, which has created a rich legacy of graduates that have gone on to elite colleges across the nation and have returned to coach and mentor the next generation. We'll discuss the importance of providing leadership opportunities in any organization, how mentoring and support is essential to anyone's leadership journey, and the importance of becoming role models in their community. You'll hear how this transcends sports and provides lessons applicable to any organization. Stuart, welcome to our podcast series.
Thank you for having me. And I'd like to thank Deborah Cohen for encouraging me and making the opportunity available to participate.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. And in reviewing your background, Stuart, by any measure, you had a long and certainly successful career playing rugby at both the collegiate and professional levels. You were a college All-American. You traveled the world playing professional rugby. And then after returning to the United States, and you completed a master's program at Dartmouth while you were coaching. The following year, you began a youth rugby program in South LA as part of the Inner City Education Foundation. That's the ICEF for short. Please tell the audience about the journey that took you from a successful rugby career to starting the ICEF rugby program.
I was playing rugby in Hong Kong, and I had a mentor named George Simkin, and he was the director of development at the Hong Kong Rugby Football Union. And George was spreading rugby all around the world, and I watched him do it in Hong Kong, and it grew a lot in the territory. And then he spread it. His mission was spreading rugby through China, and he did it through so many different ways, through schools, through universities, through the military, through club and development. And it was just something to see. I thought maybe I could do that in the urban environment of, rugby existed at universities in America and in clubs that sprang up from those colleges, but it didn't really exist in the urban community.
Sure.
I thought to myself, well, if George can do it throughout China, maybe that would work in America. So I had it as an idea. And then after I was coaching at Dartmouth for a year, I was offered to coach Santa Monica Rugby Club, and a guy there in 99 was starting the Inner City Education Foundation, a group of schools in South Central Los Angeles. And I went and interviewed there to be a teacher, and it was, aligned with the coaching at Santa Monica. And I thought this could be the place that I could do what I had a vision of doing when I was in Hong Kong. So I came here in 99, and I'm still here 26 years later. This is actually the 23rd year of the rugby program. We had to wait a couple of years because the kids started K through 5th grade. So when they were in 8th grade, we got a grant from LA84 Foundation to start a rugby program. And we did that. And it's just grown ginormously in ways we never thought of at that time. Now there's several urban rugby programs that's growing. And we have an urban rugby championship. And we're having our 4th one in New Orleans in March. So the growth of urban rugby in America with kids through schools and programs has really happened.
That's an amazing story when you consider the popularity of other sports. And yet here you bring and you introduce them to rugby. Just out of curiosity, what was the level of acceptance early on? I mean, did you have to sort of convince them that, hey, rugby is a viable sport? It's a way for you to move up, out, and to go on to university? What was that selling like to the kids?
That's interesting. I mean, it's just coming into the community just as a teacher, right, let alone starting rugby, just to be, accepted as a teacher in the classroom was a challenge for me. It was a new experience for me dealing with a different group of kids because I've been teaching at the French International School in Hong Kong while I was playing there. I had introduced rugby at the French International School in Hong Kong, and to boys and girls from, elementary school through high school. I started a rugby program, and it sort of exploded at the school within the community while rugby was growing in Hong Kong. So I kind of knew what to do. I knew the recipe of how to develop it with kids, but rugby was an unheard of sport. and in a community, kind of insular community, or these are the sports we play and these are the sports we don't play,
Right. Right.
So in my mind, because I love basketball and football growing up and all sports really, starting to play rugby at university, it was a combination of so many different sports, but a lot of football and basketball where the players are making the plays, you're creating while you're out there, you call your own plays, but with the physicality and the open field running. So once you get the kids playing, you do it in PE, you introduce it. It's just like the game sells itself. As long as you can keep the kids and they trust you, they get to the point where they trust you with this new activity, and rugby can be pretty extreme, super fun to play, and everybody really enjoys it. And we do use it as a vehicle. I mean, that was the mission original of our schools, was to prepare kids for college. I knew rugby as a good preparer for college, but it was interesting. The kids that came to rugby from the school were kids that maybe they hadn't been defined already at another sport and they were ready to try something new. Yesterday, we had like 125 kids from 7 schools out playing rugby, all being coached by the high school kids at our high school is called View Park High School. And they were coaching these 100+ kids, teaching them flag rugby from 4th grade through 8th grade. Just an amazing thing. That's how we sort of developed. All those kids had been doing it in PE, flag rugby at elementary and middle at our 7 schools. But the high school kids who are in season now, when we get them for after school rugby, the younger kids from all the schools, that's who coaches them. And that's just another great thing. And that's how we develop leadership. So there's been a series of documentaries about the program, and you've heard we travel every year.
Right.
So in a month and a half, these same leaders that are coaching the kids have been selected to tour Tanzania. So we're going to go over there. We've been there before. We're going to visit the community. They also have development rugby in and around Arusha, Tanzania. So we're returning to visit, play in a tournament with different Tanzanian development teams. From there, we'll be going to the Urban Rugby Championship in New Orleans. That's part of the experience. That's part of the development of leadership. Just the kids being exposed to the bigger world, something outside of what they would normally be exposed to.
I had an opportunity to watch the documentary Red, White, Blue, and Black. It's a marvelous story, and they captured a lot of it on film. But for a lot of the kids, coming out of their shells and seeing different cultures was quite the experience. The movie actually chronicles trips to New Zealand, China, England, and France, and it features the story of some of the ICEF rugby scholar athletes. Talk about how traveling and seeing other cultures can alter a young person's perceptions of the world, especially when they're so isolated in an underserved urban community.
Yeah, it's one of my friends from Hong Kong visited. Invariably I have everybody come into the classroom, meet the kids, and tell them about their own experience to expose the students to the broader world outside the community. And then he was talking about Hong Kong and everything he did there. And the kids were like, well, we want to go. We want to see this for ourselves. And he was like, okay, that would be good. And I said, well, would you sponsor a couple kids going over? That's how the program started. And it was 2 middle schoolers, 2 8th graders went to Hong Kong for 2 weeks, and they were part of the French International School there. And as the kids came back, we just saw this enormous impact on the students. They had a different perception, not only of the world, but of themselves. So like I said, when you come from an insular community, and it could be rural or urban, but it's an insular community where there's sort of prescribed borders around you from without and within. This is what we do. This is what we don't do. When you break that down and open the door to something new, then it's like, okay, there's a world of possibilities out there. The human mind is a curious thing. And if I see, okay, I'm a different person in the world, and the world isn't what I thought it was. What else could be different? Maybe going to college. And maybe that's something I can do, or a career that I never thought I could have, or playing rugby around the world. Which a lot of our kids have done it, but some as grown-ups have moved to different places around the world, worked around the world. It's a really exciting thing to see, and to know, our assistant coaches now are alumni from the program, who have jobs and careers, but they also coach the kids coming up. It's just an incredible thing.
It's community, and it comes full circle, right? I mean, one of the things I loved about the film, and I'm going to ask you to talk about it a little bit, but the athletes were very open about their families and their personal struggles. I failed to mention that the program that you're involved with, I think it's like your success rate in getting kids to go on to college is like, I think the number was like 4 times what other schools do to manage to get their kids to go on to school.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They work tirelessly to achieve their goals, and your program has successfully helped them steer towards making it to, and I'm going to say, elite colleges. Can you talk a little bit about some of their successes and some of the athletes?
Well, we've had a good 10 kids that have gone on to Ivy League schools since I've been here. They've gone to all the universities across the country, and several have gone beyond the borders. One person is running the Red Cross in a large area of Texas now. So many emergencies, and she went to Dartmouth, and then she went into the Peace Corps, and then she worked for FEMA, and she got a graduate degree in international disasters from University in the UK. And now she has this big job in Texas, and we were just talking on the phone and catching up and just talking about how she developed her courage and her outlook as a youngster playing rugby, but also traveling the world during high school, and just how that impacted what she thought she could do in the world. So she was actually in the Peace Corps in Tanzania. She told me about the program in Arusha, and then I ended up contacting the person that was running that program in Arusha. That's how we ended up going there in 2019. One of our girls is a star on the U.S. Olympic team. Her name's Nia Tolliver, and she's at the peak of her game right now, and she participated in the Tokyo Games. And then she had a 4-year professional career playing rugby in Japan. And now she's back here playing for the U.S. and tearing it up on the international scene. And she's preparing to play in LA 28 games and representing her home city. She's in the film. The films you were watching, it shows her when she's very, very young and vulnerable. That's Nia Tolliver. She was really precocious. It's predicted in the film. Some of the kids say, Nia, you're going to go to the Olympics. Rugby had just been announced that it was returning to the Olympics. She was like 14, 15 years old. And one of the pivotal scenes in the film, one of the other students is talking to the group, and he's talking to her and he's saying, Nia, you're going to go to the Olympics. He was right. She did. And she's going to do it some more. But it's that guy who made that, he's been teaching now English for several years. I was many of their students' English teacher for a long time. Now I'm coaching, and I teach actually a business class of all things, a business and leadership class for high school kids. But for us, winning is every time we stick together, and losing is every time we come apart. And those are the life skills, and those are the leadership skills that we learn along the way. That's the emphasis, and you can see it in the movie. It's a character and leadership development program. John, I wanted to share something with you, though, about this is an important point, because people often think, we're going together, me and these kids and all the coaches and teachers that are a part of it, the leadership, that our kids are going to grow. But I can tell you a 50% part of it is the people that we meet. They're changed as well by the experience, because it's not what they thought it was going to be, the experience. It's not just for us, but it's for everybody we meet along the way. Open your eyes about people might not be who you think they are, until you meet them.
I think that's brilliant. I think that these are all shared experiences. So when you get together with somebody from another culture, you're impacting them just as much as they're impacting you. What I love about, and you said, it's kind of funny that you said, now I'm teaching a business and leadership class. Well, of anybody that I've spoken to, you're probably well equipped to talk about leadership. And actually, a business and the fundamentals of running a business it all starts with leadership. And the leadership principle that you develop in these new leaders is so powerful. They want to come back and give back. And I noted the desire of the kids within the program, especially in the movie, was to become team captains. So oftentimes for young people, they don't recognize that they have opportunities to be leaders. And so when they see others and they're successful, they want to be that. And it was great to see that actually in the movie, some of the kids saying, hey, when I come back next year, I want to be the team captain. And so, they aspire to those levels. And I think you bring that out in them. So it's those life lessons along the way that really seems to come through, and then develops leaders so much so that they want to come back and then be role models for the next generation.
Yeah, that's how it works. And that's what I saw like yesterday with the high school kids coaching the 4th through 8th graders. Several of those kids are 9th graders that were coaching. I had them coach the 4th and 5th graders, so there's not such a, but you can see they just came out of that program from last year, that desire, seeing themselves as leaders. You often hear that. I never saw myself as a leader. After they coach the younger kids, it changes them as teammates and as players. They see the responsibility of their role within the group,
Right.
that we're dependent upon each other. And that's everybody. And that's something that we teach as well. Like, everybody's equally important. People have different roles within the group. But just because somebody runs faster, that's not a more important role than somebody who's in a support position and films every game, is there to help with everything. Support the team, cheer them on. Everybody's a part of it. That's leadership. Leadership is when you sort of take responsibility for your own actions within the group, whatever it takes to support the group. That's leadership. And that's what we teach within the group. That's what you have to have for the group to continue to be successful. And if you're relying on wins and losses to define you as a success, it's going to be tough.
Absolutely. And one of the things that, leadership is all about is the ability to guide and influence the action and direction of others.
Right.
And one of the things that I saw, the kids that became captains at a very young age, they thought that they were not just leaders, but they were rulers, and that how dare somebody question what I want, when the reality is, part of leadership is influencing without breaking out a stick and hitting someone over the head. You've got to understand how to communicate. So one of the aspects of this is truly getting them to communicate and understanding that, and I hate to use the term about this, but being angry and then lashing out and violence, which may be something that you see around you, is not really the normal and the correct way of doing it. And I think that's what I saw that you brought out in those kids, was to be understanding of others, communicate with them at their level, and get them to understand that this is a proven direction, try it, and really be part of the team, as you point out, and understanding your role and your responsibilities.
Yeah. It's not just the kids, it's me too. I've grown with them, the way that I lead or the way that I'm communicating. So I have that fieriness exists within me too. That's part of what drove me as an athlete. You kind of want that in athletes, to have that passion, some burning desire to get across the goal line, because that's what it takes when it's tough. But you can, use that burning desire to get across other goal lines in life too. Sometimes you need that. So it's good to help kids, bring that out in themselves, while at the same time, communication is tough. It's going to be difficult, especially if we care about something, like everybody cares about it,
right?
But maybe it's not a shared vision, or they feel like, whatever, I care about this, but you're not hearing me, or whatever. I wasn't the leader before, I want to be now. You hear me, listen to me. So you go through all that and you end up having difficult conversations. I'm sure you talk about that in your other podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be able to have that, to be vulnerable. There's going to be mistakes along the way. I'm going to make them. Sometimes we have to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And forgive me. I care about you. And I care about this team too. And I care about you. Let's grow together.
I think what you're talking about is to a great extent. And I, again, whether in my own experience or what I saw in the film that you've gone through, is you teach these kids how to resolve conflicts. And conflict resolution is tough for anybody that starts out in a leadership program, because they really don't know how to deal with it. You bring that out in the kids to grow that understanding and the ability to communicate and resolve differences in a way that everyone comes out as a winner, that it's not a win-lose, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
It's in any environment where you sort of make the assumption that people that have talents will automatically be successful. And that's not the way it works. I just reflecting on, in watching the film, about the term grit. And there's this wonderful Dr. Angela Duckworth, who's this researcher and psychologist, and she came up with what she calls a grit scale, and how to have grit has what she described as a ferocious determination, resilience, diligence, and a direction combined with passion. And it seems that the program, the way you've laid it out, brings that out in the kids. You sort of put them on that path. For example, goal setting, focus. When you listen to the kids talk, they all talk about college now. That's the goal. How do I get there? What do I do next? And it's that diligent and putting in the work. You probably see that as you work with these kids.
Yeah, these kids are full of grit because they've experienced resilience throughout their lives. So I see it all the time with the group. Even this week, after the fires, everybody's affected by it. First of all, we missed another week of school. We missed practice. We missed games, which is trivial in comparison to what people have lost. Everybody knows somebody who's going through loss through this tragedy. So we're all affected by it. And to be able to come together afterwards, I know the air is still clearing. The air is not cleared, but we are back practicing. We're back playing. The resilience, just a big part of the program, but the kids have it in buckets, already.
Yeah, they
and that's why they're able to do. I think that's a beautiful thing that comes out in the films is that, things happen and you hear about things that have happened in their lives and are happening on the tour and they just keep going. There might be something that's a setback, but it's going to not stop me from moving forward. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to keep moving forward. The program develops that, but that's something that I've learned. Yeah. That's a really resilient group of kids, and you can use that with them. Okay, you've been knocked down. Let's get back up. Keep your eye on the goal. College. Don't give up on it when you get knocked down. I know you're going to get back up, but don't give up on yourself and your dreams and your aspirations. Those might change. And they do for all of us. But don't stop aspiring,
right?
And moving towards those goals, because it's going to change from traveling the world as a high school rugby player, which is a huge accomplishment within itself, and playing high school rugby in Southern California, where it's very competitive. It's a very rough game. So it takes tons of courage just to get out there and play. And then, to go around the world.
I love the words that Angela used. She called it ferocious determination. Nothing's going to stop me. And I love the way that's thinking. And quite frankly, although it's a rugby program, it is truly a leadership program. And I commend you for putting this together. As we wrap this up, one last question for you. What one word describes who you are?
Me?
You.
One word. Well, this is what I tell people around me when you get closer, when I'm developing leadership, is I tell them, I use this with my daughter too. I say, imagine what can be and then move towards it. So you definitely want to develop imagination. So I guess dreamer.
Oh.
I'm a dreamer.
Yeah.
So, but I'm also like, it's just going to be a dream. It's like, I'm going to dream it. Then I'm going to try to make it real.
Yeah, you're a doer. Yes, you're a dreamer, and you see the world as an opportunity to make things better. And I think, you've certainly done that.
Yeah, and to express yourself, not just to make things better. Hopefully you feel that way, but some people, that's not what drives them. But I think to express yourself in a positive way, now make things better. So the world's an opportunity to express yourself, who you are. And I've been able to do that through rugby.
Yeah, through rugby, but, giving of yourself and being focused on hopefully making the lives better for these kids. Stuart, this has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for being part of our series.
Thank you so much for including me. I've enjoyed it very much.
Stuart recognized the importance of mentorship in his life, especially the influence of his mentor in Hong Kong, George Simkin. He became inspired by George's ability to spread rugby in Hong Kong and China, and sought to do the same in an American urban environment. He decided to make mentorship an essential aspect of building his rugby program and leadership training. Stuart mentioned that student athletes coaching the younger kids improves them as teammates and players. They see the responsibility of their role within the group, that we're dependent upon each other if we're going to succeed. We discussed the documentary film about his program Red, White, Blue, and Black, chronicling trips to New Zealand, China, England, and France. It features stories about ICEF rugby scholar athletes. He witnessed how traveling and seeing other cultures can alter a young person's perceptions of the world, especially if they're coming from an insular community. The program has kids who have gone on to careers in the Red Cross, the Peace Corps, in business, and even the U.S. Olympic team. One young lady he highlighted is Nia Tolliver, who participated in the Tokyo Games and had a 4-year professional career playing rugby in Japan. She's now back playing for the U.S. women's rugby team and preparing for the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. Stuart talks about how he views winning, and I quote, "Winning is every time we stick together, and losing is every time we come apart." We discuss another essential aspect of leadership, conflict resolution, which is resolving a dispute and reaching an agreement that satisfies all parties involved. Conflict resolution skills are used to increase understanding, facilitate dialogue, and avoid emotional responses. The kids experience having to control frustration and anger to make meaningful discussions possible. We all understand how open and honest communication skills are essential to anyone in a leadership role. And the one word he used to describe himself is dreamer. You need to imagine what it can be and dream about it, and then go out and do it. We thank Stuart for sharing his insights and valuable experiences. This podcast is executive produced by John Rebecchi and the New York Institute of Technology in conjunction with the School of Management and the Office of Strategic Communications and External Affairs. Our co-executive producer is Dr. Deborah Cohen, Professor of Marketing at the School of Management. Our social media strategist and producer is Petra Shantaraga, and our audio editor and mixer is Brian Falk from Abacus Entertainment. Special thanks to Professor Ellie Schwartz and John Rolicky from the Office of Development and Alumni Relations for all their support. Until next time.